I'm Nyx Bulbs. Welcome to another episode of Meet the Gaffer. Today we're going to have some fun with LED light bulbs. So here I am outside building a framework, and you're thinking, if we're going to be talking about light bulbs, then why are you outside? Isn't that going to be difficult to see the light during the day? Well, it took quite a while to put this together, so eventually it will be dark. The heart of this contraption is a 2-foot diameter Lazy Susan. And then I'm hanging a rig from it that I can rotate, and that will have light bulbs on it. And then in the back, put a 12 by 20 so that there would be a dark background. And these are the NYX bulbs by Astera. And here I can show you, this is a black version. So they have a white base version, and then this is a black version, in case you want to go more stealth. And here I have it hooked up to not only a battery, but sort of a controller, because you don't have those controls on the actual light itself. You just have an on-off button. But here you can plug it in and set the settings so that you can put it in a regular socket and run it remotely with CRMX. So you can do wireless control either through the app with a Astera box, you know, the transmitter that Astera has that you're used to with the tubes, or I'm running it through an AKS Plus transmitter and using blackout on an iPad Pro. Just recently, they've updated the firmware so that you can bypass the Astera box and run the bulbs off the app off of Bluetooth. Now, one thing, I'm hooked up here to a battery and controller. There is no battery in the bulb. And what that gives you is a similar form factor to regular bulbs, and they put in CRMX instead. So, you know, there's always a trade-off. Either you get a battery inside and then maybe a different form factor just because of the heat, or you get a bulb like this that can be powered with an outside cable or, you know, in a regular socket. Another cool thing that we're using today is I'm being lit by NYX bulbs. And I've built this rig that I have 8 bulbs on, and that's what you get in a pack. You can get a pack of 8. I have a few extra bulbs, so I have one above me, and I have this other one that I've been showing you. So I have 10 altogether to play with. But here we have a ring of 8 bulbs. And what that gives us is an opportunity to play with the basic concepts of lighting a person. And I'm just a stationary person. I'm not walking around or anything, but it gives us an opportunity to play with that. So here I just have a look that has, you know, a sort of a main source here, sort of a fill source here, a backlight, and an edge light. I often call it a scratch because it scratches the cheek. This is the thing people ask me the most on the vlog is, what is a scratch light? Well, it's scratching the cheek. It's just something that's coming, you know, as an edge. Usually it's a little lower. I've got everything all at the same height here. I can't easily, you know, raise and lower. I could raise and lower the whole thing, but anyway, for our purposes, this will be fun. Typically in film school, you'll start with 3-point lighting: key, fill, backlight. Maybe 4-point lighting, a background light. One thing we could do is just start with one light. You know, that's often the best approach when you come to a scene, you're not quite sure how you want to light it. Just turn on a light. Roger Sackett, DP that I learned under a long time ago in Minneapolis, St. Paul, that was the first thing he ever told me. It's like, you're in charge today. What do you do? How do you want to light this? And I'm like, I have no idea where to start. He says, just turn on a light. And I thought, you know, It was like the simplest thing you can imagine, but brilliant. And so that's what we're going to do here. So I'm going to turn everything off. How's that? There we go. And now let's turn on 1 at full. So we'll give ourselves a starter light. Okay, now, so if we bring this one source to the front, then that's sort of a model type light, you know, just kind of beauty light, fashion, just showing off, just bam, you know, it's like paparazzi light, just fill it all in, and no shadows, you know, you're trying to show everything in its best light, so to speak. And so that would be from the front. Now, if we go some more traditional interviewing light, you know, sort of the Rembrandt look, I'm looking off camera, we get a little bit of, you know, that triangle on the opposite side of key. And if we keep going around, now we go to, you know, more of a half light, so a little more sinister, and keep going around, and now it's still the only source around, so it's still the key light, so to speak, but now it's a 3/4 back. And I've always wondered, like, what on earth is 3/4 about it? Well, it's 3/4 of the half circle. That's the only thing I can figure out. Maybe there's a better explanation, but there you go. 3/4 back is not all the way back, it's 3/4 of that half turn. Now we bring it around to the back, and there we go. Now it's a nice backlight. It's rimming me out of the background. You know, that's something we often add later, but we're just throwing it in now to show what the single sources do. Now here we are on the other side. We're scratching that cheek a little bit, and as we come around, we just have that half light again, and then we're, you know, you can have a light like that where you just get a little bit of the eye, but you're not filling it in, and it's a little more dramatic. And then there we fill it a bit, but we still have sort of a darkness here, which you could add a light in the back to edge that out a little bit. And here we come to the center. So let's just put it off to the side there for now. So this actually brings up a video that you should definitely check out if you haven't seen it before, and that is Tim Kang talks about the 4 C's of lighting, which is kind of a variation on the 3-point lighting, but it's a nice update. And so he goes through the 4 C's. So he would say the first C is about contours. So it gives shape to your subject. So here, by, you know, if you have the light full on to the front, then there's not a whole lot of shape. It's just bam, you know, hit me from the front. So you're not seeing a whole lot about me. You're just seeing me flat and flat lighting, right? So you bring it to the side, and now there's a little bit more drama to it. You know, there's a little more shape that is being created by this light now, and so that is the first C, contour. The second C would be contrast, and that's where you might bring in a little bit of fill, and that way you work with your ratios. And so then you start talking about foot candles and lux, and how you meter things, and how you have a relationship between the two. So if I bring up this one to say 65%. So now that's, it's a fair amount of fill there. But if you pull your meter out and we just take our general reading here, I've got 5.3 foot candles. And then if we take out the key and we just look at our fill, 2.3. Suffice it to say, my math was a little off. The key plus fill was 5.3. The fill, 2.3. And so, it's in the ballpark of 2 to 1. Yeah, I'm not a great live presenter. So there you go. Let's just say 2 to 1 for our ratio. So we're still using the words from 3-point lighting, but anyway. So the first C is contour. It gives our subject some shape. And then we have contrast. So that talks about, the mood, the modeling, the ratio. And then we add clarity. We put this shape, this subject, into context. What's around it? Well, if we give it a little bit of backlight, then that takes us out of the background a little bit. And normally we'd also add something to the background. Here we're just in darkness. So before we go to the fourth C, color, I'm just going to throw in that scratch. So I just like to have a little bit of, pull someone out from the background. It just brings that backlight. And sometimes, often, just never mind the backlight because it looks too forced. But a scratch light feels more like a window, something that's coming from out of frame, and so you can. I just like to have a little bit of that playing in there. Now, something that took me a while to sort of learn was that, yeah, you can have your subject looking good, but sometimes you just need to lift the room a little bit. A little bit of ambience can go a long way. Now, in this case, I've just got a bulb above me, so I'm going to add a little something there. What happens when we bring that up? If we bring it up full, that's a whole lot too much. And so that's just 22%, and take it off. Yeah, it's just a subtle thing. But, it might be a little bounce, might be smacking something up into the ceiling. It's just nice to add to the room feel so that it doesn't feel so, forced or fake, that you've lit this person perfectly in their spot. So now, I'm talking about lighting interviews right here. And but you can take these same principles into narrative, where people are moving, you're lighting spaces more, but you're still using those same kind of ideas of pushing light from here and there to give contour, to give contrast and clarity. I like those concepts. I think Tim really did us a service there by sort of extending the dialogue into something that's a little more holistic as we talk about what the light is doing to the subject and the space. So then now let's talk a little bit about color. So we could add color. Often, you don't add the color to the person's, the front of the person's face, but you often add something, as a little bit of a scratch. Maybe we give a little bit of warmth. So I bring that down, and that would just be a very subtle kiss of warmth coming from behind. It still gives the skin tone what we're balanced to, but it allows for something different. Now, you could color that up a little bit. We could go into Rgb mode. Let's see. We could pink it up. We could blue it up. We could maybe be a little more subtle and cyan it up, but then add some white to that. Okay, so maybe just a little something of that. And of course we could take it down in intensity. So it could be a little more subtle there as well. Maybe our backlight Gets another tone there. No, it's a little too red. Maybe just a little something there. So there's sort of a skin tone actually coming from behind. But yeah, let's see. So that's just a little something coming from the key side. And it's just a little bit of magenta, you know, a little pink action. That's like 42%. And, you know, if we made that a lot richer, then, yeah, you know, I don't know. It's just a little something. The fact that we have all these RGB units now more and more readily available, it just allows us to add a little bit of a little nudge of color here and there. You know, it doesn't have to be overpowering, doesn't have to be a music video, but just having a little bit of color palette to play with is a wonderful thing. Why don't we, here, we'll bring all the units up to, say, 50. So, except for our key. That's a little too much. Maybe we'll say 30. And then we'll make that our white light. And if we went around the color wheel, then say our side would be red. Okay. And then maybe an orange. And then let's go to maybe a lime. Let's go to a cyan. We'll go to blue. We'll go to magenta. And, well, we can go to a rose, maybe. That's the frontal. And then from above, maybe we'll just get a little yellow from above. How about that? Bing. There you go, nice and yellow. Okay, so, well, you can work with all your different versions of, you know, primary colors, obviously, secondary, tertiary, complementary, all those kinds of things come into play. And, you know, here you still have some white light, so that is giving us kind of our base, and then we add the colors and we can have some fun. I'm just so appreciative of all these manufacturers that have been putting out wonderful tools for us to play with. And now we've got all the color in the world that we could want, and we can spin it around to our heart's content. And there you go. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again next time. So here the thing that makes this all possible is this, there's a D-tap that comes out, and then it's broken out into like an octopus. So you've got 8 power cables that come to each unit, like this one here. And they're about 2.5 meters long, and that allows us to get power to all 8 bulbs. Now let me show you a little bit about this rig. Pretty rudimentary, you know, really. Just put together DIY. So I started with a 12 by 12 frame, and then added 2 rails that were a little bit longer than 12 by that went in the middle, and then added the Lazy Susan and 2 8 by sections that would cross each other, and then put the 6 by in with the corners filling in between the 8 by frames or frame pieces, so that it would make a circle. And then it all turns around. But kind of a fun rig. Here are some stills This is the rig from below, just to give you an idea. And here's a pano left to right. And then this is the ends there, just cheese burrows, easy deal. And then some close-ups of the center, all the little bits and bobs that it took to put it all together. Hey, fun.